here we are then, right? How to stay sane, focused, and connected in a world that is going crazy. And what I'm going to share with you are some of the science-based tools, techniques, processes, disciplines that I am using and I'm inviting my clients to use as well to help us stay sane in this world that we have never been in before. It's unprecedented. I don't want to talk too much about it. You all know what I'm talking about and you're all experiencing it. So VUCA, the new business normal. Now, how many of you, just give me a yes if you've heard of this before. I first heard this from Paul Pullman. At the time, he was the CFO of Unilever. I'd never heard this, and he was talking about it, and this is going back a few years now, but how apt is this right now, right? Volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. This is like to the max. Like if there was a scale of 1 to 10 for each of these, I think we go volatility 10, uncertainty 10, complexity 10, ambiguity 10. You know, I know many of you that are on there I have worked with. For those of you that I haven't, you know, there's a lot of you that are in the business world. This is the new business normal. And it's kind of hard to get one's head round. And one of the reasons why I wanted to get on here and do as best I could to, you know, share some of the things that I know are working for me and for those that I work with as well. So as a result of that, I came up with this very simple little motto for me. Difficulty is inevitable. Panic is optional. It says that I've got a choice around the panic bit, and I've also got to figure out you know, how to get through the difficulty. Now, let's just say it was me and you, and at the moment it would be virtual, having a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, a beer, or a glass of wine. And I fire these 3 questions at you. Now, you know, a coach, as you're going to hear a little bit about me, you know, we're very good at questions. I always say, if you want good answers, get consultants. If you want good questions, get coaches. And someone laughed the other day because they said, I can't believe, Colin, that you have coaches. Well, of course I have coaches. I mean, I know the value of coaching. I have, you know, health coaches and fitness coaches. I have a business coach. So big shout to Carl Harvey. He's the individual that has helped me the most in this space, you know, giving me that little bit of confidence to just get going, the nudge that I needed. And bless you, sir, if you're on, bless you very much, because through you now, you know, we're actually helping a lot more people. But imagine it's just me and you, and I'm across the table or, you know, virtual from you, and I fire these 3 questions at you. What I want you to figure out is how quickly, how easily would you be able to answer them? Would you go, right, here's my answer, here's my answer, here's my answer? Or would you be a little bit of rabbit caught in headlights? So my first question is, what are your self-care rituals, right? Self-care rituals, what are they? Now, how quickly could you answer that? You know, Colin, I've got a number of self-care rituals and I tend to do them around this time. Or would you look at me and go, self-care? What do you mean by self-care? Right? So where would you be on that question? You know. Secondly, if I was to say, what's consuming the highest percentage of your focus at the moment? I need to put a comma in there. What would your answer to that be? Now, would you have a clue as to where your focus is at the moment? What's getting the majority of your attention at the moment? Are you in control of your attention, or is others taking control of your attention? We're going to talk about that. Also, where are you drawing positivity and inspiration from? I think we're all aware of there is an awful lot of doom and gloom out there at the moment. But what about balancing that out? Where are you drawing that from? Because if you, and there's a lot of leaders on here, I know, if you want to be inspiring to others, where are you getting your inspiration from? You know, it starts with you filling yourself up first in order to be able to fill others up with the inspiration that they need in order to get through this. So you're going to see how I'm going to come back to each of these as I take you on this little journey here and help you understand why getting answers to these questions are really, really important, but also to give you a few tools and techniques to think about as we get into this. So a little bit about Colin Hiles. If you don't know me, not seen me before, family man. So there's my family down the bottom there. So Herbie and Sonny, my boys, and Tor, my wife. That picture there is Tor and I in Bali a month ago. I put that picture in there because that was us a month ago. All right, that's not that long, but boy, oh boy, are we in a different world now than just a month ago. And as you can see, I'm an executive coach. I've had the privilege of working with some of the most successful people in the city, running some of the biggest businesses, and around the world as well. So privileged in that sense. And I've been in this space for over 20 years now. I'm a terrible surfer. There's a picture of me there. That's in Australia recently at Byron Bay. And but I'm a great tea maker. Listen, I come from South London. My family are all from South London. Tea is the medicine that cures all ills. Right now, South London, they're going to be drinking a lot of tea. Cup of tea? I'd love a cup of tea. And if you're really in a bad way, you've got to put lots of sugar in it as well, even though I don't have sugar, I don't like sugar. So, and I'm also a brain science geek. You cannot stop me really working hard to understand the science of the brain. And right now we're in the sciences of the brain. So let me give you my approach. Firstly, it's science-based. And I draw on three main areas. So neuroscience, you know, sort of new emerging science, which is really showing us what's going on in the brain. And then you've got behavioral economics, which is actually my favorite, which is fundamentally how we make decisions. And boy, oh boy, we make decisions very different to how we think we make decisions. And then you've got positive psychology, which is looking at, you know, what happy people do. And I think we can draw a few ideas from positive psychology to help us in this moment of time where we need, you know, emotional resilience and fortitude and mental toughness and grit in order to get through this. It's the perfect storm to help us, you know, grow in capacity to deal with. And I reckon when we get to the back end of this, we'll look back and, you know, we'll realize just how much we've grown, but then from then on in, nothing will seem much of a problem, right? Because we'll have a contrast. If anyone says we've got a problem, we'll go, hang on, sit down, have a little chat with you about, you know, early 2020. Because, you know, we're in a situation right now that's never ever been experienced by any of us, I don't think. Secondly, I try to make what I do fun and engaging because I do know that when we're enjoying ourselves, we release happy hormones which enable learning to take place faster, quicker, and easier, but also make it more sustainable. And that's the goal. It's what we do when we get off of these calls or out of the classroom, so to speak, that really makes the difference. So hopefully you'll smile a little bit as I go through this. And then lastly, practical and tactical. This is what my clients fundamentally love about working with me. I've asked many of them, you know, what is it about me? Because if I could figure that out, maybe I could do it better. And they'll say things like you simplify, you demystify, and you make it extremely practical. So I'm not sometimes interested in all the research and science behind it. Just give me what bloody works, right? Give me that. It's a bit like coming in and switching on a light. It comes on. I don't need to know why and how and if and but and what's going on in the background. The light comes on. And so I think you'll find that everything will come down to very practical tools that you're going to be able to use. So here's our agenda. Three things: self-care, control, and input. And as I go through each of these, I'm going to give you tools and techniques and ideas that can make a difference in each of these spaces and places. Now, common sense versus common practice, because I put those three things up, and depending on your experience, you could have gone, oh, and you know a lot about it. Now, common sense is what we know. And there's a lot of you that know a lot on this here webinar, but it doesn't mean that we're doing it. You know, common practice is what we do. And often there's a gap between common sense and common practice. I know it, but I don't do it. For instance, I can, you know, teach you a number of skills around listening. And some of you might look at me and go, Colin, you are really quite a guru around listening. Well, my wife, Tor, who's just down here, will remind me often that what I know, I don't do. In other words, there's a gap between what I know and what I do. And she'll look at me and go, Colin, do you teach listening skills? Yeah. In other words, you're not very good at it, mate. So I want you to think as I go through this, not judge it based on, well, I know that. Judge it based on, do I do it? Because as a coach, I'm here to remind people what they know and then get them to do what they know. That's why I have coaches around me. I'm no different, you know. And so I need those people around me, you know, like the Carl Harveys, like the Angelas, that basically are there to say, have you done what you said you're going to do? You said, you know, that can make a huge difference as to whether or not I do what I say I'm going to do. So, you know, common sense says it's good to go and grab the fruit. Common practice is I go and grab a cookie. And a lot of us fall foul to knowing but not doing. And so I want you to have the lens as you go through this webinar as to, am I doing this? Not do I know it? Am I doing it? Make that the judge. And if you're not, then maybe there's where your gap is. Well, maybe I need to close that gap, and maybe I need to do this. So let's talk about self-care first. And this was this first question here. What are your self-care rituals? Let me just grab a cup of tea. So I think what would you say to me here? What would be your self-care rituals? Why don't some of you type this out in the chat box? What would be your self-care rituals? What would you put as a self-care ritual? Because you must be doing them, and you know about them. So what would they be? Let's get a few things in the chat box on this. Are you able to see the chat box, Sonny? Good. What sorts of things? Yoga. Cycling. Music. Sports. Zumba. Ballet. Push-ups. Meditation. Walks on the beach. Ooh, can't do that in Spain at the moment. Can't even go outside. All beaches are closed. Walking the dog. Brilliant. Right. So there's some self-care rituals that you know. So I'm going to talk about why I think they're essential right now. So I've been asking this question to a number of people around me, both in professional and personal life, very senior in business. How are you feeling? And the sorts of things that come out as anxious, worried, overwhelmed, unsettled, sad, devastated, upset, angry are some of the emotions. And you might reside, yes, I understand that. And of course, these are all on spectrum. So really anxious versus, a little bit anxious, really worried versus a little bit worried. Of course, it's not the same for all of us, but these are the emotions. And these are fear-based emotions, that they come from fear. So what it means right now is a lot of people are in fear. And I think there's a very good example of people being in fear at the moment. And it's been in the news. And some people have been very angry about it. Some people have laughed about it. And that is panic buying, right? Panic buying. So I got this off of someone that was on Twitter, and she said, our local Sainsbury's has upgraded from mild panic buying to apocalyptic wasteland. And she put some pictures up there. So, we're seeing this, and this behavior is driven from fear. And fear is our natural response to, the unknown. It's what we do. We fear the unknown. I don't know what's going to happen, so I better get myself prepared. And so, go out and buy a lot more. And of course, right now, forget about gold. It's loo rolls, right? Loo rolls is the new gold, isn't it? If you've got some loo rolls, you could probably make quite a bit of money right now. And then the pictures of people coming out with, hundreds of loo rolls. And so, just crazy. So what it means is we're not rational, we're irrational. And this is a fantastic example of being very irrational. And we try to speak to people rationally, but we're not rational. We feel, think, we don't think, feel. We feel, think first, so feeling first, thinking second. And then we think about the feeling and we rationalize it away in some way, shape or form. So this is totally normal. Just want to say this, it's absolutely normal right now to be anxious and worried and scared and frightened and all of those things. We should be. Otherwise, I'd say there's something a little bit wrong with you here. Maybe you're sat in deluded land a little bit, because this is quite serious. This is very serious. And I think there is a large population right now that are in grieving. Now, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross famously came up with the 5 stages of grieving. And of course, that was very much to do with bereavement. But, bereavement is about loss. And I think all of us are experiencing a number of losses right now, just as we're on this webinar. You've got loss of income. So for instance, I've seen, and my colleagues have seen, tens of thousands of pounds drop out the diary 4 days. In 4 days, just go. For me, I don't want to say, it's a lot. It's an awful lot of money that's just dropped out the diary, gone in 4 days. Like my world turned upside down in 4 days. And in my profession, you can't feel that now. So that's it. It's lost. It's gone. And lots of my colleagues and lots of other individuals as well. We've got work. There's people that are losing businesses right now. They're losing their livelihood right now, or they're being asked to, leave right now because the company can't sustain them. You've got loss of routines. We are routine. About 48% of what we do is routine, is habitual. And right now, we're not in routine. We're doing different things. We'll get up, we'll have a shower, grab a coffee, get on the train or the tube to get to the office, maybe have another coffee and then sit down and start. Right now, we're not going to offices. We're not making those journeys. So everything has been turned upside down. Our routines have been thrown out the window, and we're starting to have to create new routines. So we've lost that. We've lost freedom. We can't just go out now. We can't socialize now. We can't have friends over now. You can't go to the gym now. You can't do all of that. And we're social beings, and we're being asked to isolate. We're being asked to move away from each other physically, that is. Of course, we've still got technology, but it's not, not the same. And sadly, very sadly, some people are losing loved ones because of this, or they're right in that risk space and they're very scared that just maybe, that could happen. And a few of you have sent me emails to say that has already happened for you, and it is devastating. Of course, absolutely. So I think we're basically grieving at the moment for the loss of a number of things. And of course, once again, that will be very different for each and every one of us. But absolutely, we're going through that. And so the challenge with it is it's normal, but it's not good for us. The brain, we have three brains very quickly. So now if you can, and you're not in a public, as in not there's people around you, and you're not in a public space, why do I even say that? If there's people around you and you don't want to do this, don't do this. But if not, then I want you to create a brain for yourself. All right. So if you just put your hand like so, play along with me. Okay. Play along with me. Right. So the brain basically has three levels to it. So wiggle your fingers. Okay. That's your neocortex. That's the top part of your brain, the thinking, rational part of the brain. If I turn it this way, this here is the prefrontal lobes, sit just behind your eyebrows. Very, very important part of the brain. That's been found out by neuroscience. I'll come back to that. Right, hand off, come down, and then squeak. This here is the emotional part of the brain, the relationship or relational part of the brain, if you like. This is where all our emotions are housed, but there's also something in here called the amygdala, which is like a little alarm bell that rings if felt unsafe. And then finger and thumb round here. Okay, this here is the reptilian brain. This here is the instinctive brain, the fight, flight, or freeze brain. Now, here's what happens. The moment we become stressed, go like that. That's gone, right? You don't have access to the rational thinking, problem-solving part of the brain. And you have what I call a wobbly. Everyone do that, right? You're having a little wobbly, okay? And so we're having not a little wobbly, we're having a massive wobbly right now. This bit here, the rational part of the brain isn't really connected. This is why you're seeing a lot of irrational behavior. And it's only when we become more positive, put ourselves into positive emotions, into peak states, that this comes back on. Now, I like to think of this as like three advisors. When we are feeling good about ourselves and about what's going on, we have three advisors: the advisor of logic, the advisor of emotion, the advisor of instinct. And of course, we make much better decisions. But the moment we become scared or stressed, that goes like that, and we have a wobbly. So the trouble is with a wobbly, if we stay in wobbly, is that we have an awful lot of cortisol flying around our system. And chronic stress is good for us. Those of you that work with me know I think stress gets a bad rap, but too much stress for too long weakens the immune system, increases blood pressure, lowers motivation and the ability to focus. And guess what we need right now? Bloody strong immune system, low blood pressure, and high motivation, and a high ability to focus on changing things for the future. So cortisol isn't good for us. We don't want to have too much cortisol flying around our system. So stress, chronic stress, not good. And this is my fear. This is why I thought I've got to do something. Somehow I've got to provide some tools that help maintain a good level of stress rather than a dangerous level of stress for all of these reasons. And there's a lot that we could do around this just in itself. So let's talk about self-care. Now, here's what I believe about self-care. Here's the bottom line. Now, more than ever, you must take care of yourself. And please understand, when I say you must take care of you, I'm sat with you saying, Colin, you must take care of you. I'm not exempt from this. Self-care, I think, right now is essential. Here's why. We are going to be expending far more energy right now than we typically do, because the brain loves to automate. It loves to create routines and habits, which we don't have to think about. It's sort of automated. It's triggered by the environment, and away we go. Now, what that does is it saves a tremendous amount of energy to use to thinking. Well, right now, it's like we're thinking all the time because everything is different. And thinking, this thing here, uses a tremendous amount of energy. So if we don't have the energy source, we're in trouble. Now, what happens with your phone if you don't charge it? You have a little red sign and then it goes boop. That's my worry, right? If we're not recharging ourselves, if we're not taking care of us, we can't take care of others. So if you want to serve others, your family, your friends, your colleagues, those that you lead, you've got to take care of you first, period. No excuses, no if, buts, or maybes. It is essential right now that self-care is your highest priority. Remember, I'm talking to me here as well. So self-care rituals. I'm prioritizing 4 aspects of my well-being right now. So prioritizing meaning I'm putting them up here. It doesn't mean that nothing else is important. It just means I'm prioritizing. So another swig of my cup of tea. What are those 4 things? Well, firstly, sleep. Through my coach, Angela, is really helping me understand how to get a good night's sleep. And when we have more cortisol in our system, we're restless, we don't sleep as well, we wake up in the night, we're thinking, it's like we can't turn this damn brain off. And unfortunately, when you wake up in the night and you think, you typically think about things that are not good, things that we're stressing about, which causes more cortisol to fly around our system, which makes sleep, deep sleep, the sleep that we need to really restore ourselves, very hard to achieve. And so I'm making sure that I'm getting good sleep. And I have this thing called Aura Ring here, which is a way of getting an idea of how well I'm doing and some of those changes that I need to make. And I've got pretty good now, I must say, at getting really good night's sleep. I'm pretty consistent, pretty proud of that, but I'm prioritizing that because, listen, you can get everything else right, but if your sleep's shot, you will not be filling yourself back up with energy, to use a very simple metaphor. So sleep for me, priority. Secondly, exercise. We know that when we exercise, we release endorphins. Endorphins are the happy drugs. You always feel good after an exercise, don't you? Right? You know it and I know it. Getting ourselves to exercise isn't always that easy, but we always feel good at the back end. So I'm prioritizing exercise, whatever I can do every day, using a few apps and using some videos like Joe Wicks on YouTube, just doing high intensity interval training, or stretching exercises or yoga or something like that, just first thing in the morning, just to get myself in the right mental state. Thirdly, time outside. Now, we can only go outside into our gardens for some of us, but we got a little balcony here. We're going to put the table out there. Should we go into full lockdown where you actually can't go out? You cannot go out unless you're going to buy something medical or you're going to the supermarket, and even then, only one person can go out at a time, which is what they're finding out in Spain. So we'll go outside, sitting outside, fresh air. We know is good for us. The natural light is very good for us. It sets our circadian rhythms for sleep. A lot of research going into the importance of that, and I'm learning a tremendous amount on that. So I'm making sure that I get outside at least once every day. I haven't today. It's been so manic in trying to get this set up and get this working and all the things on here. So I haven't been out, but I will. As soon as I've finished, I'm going out. I'm going outside just to get some fresh air, make sure that I get some of that natural light, because natural light is very different to light coming through the window. And then lastly, meditation. Now, the problem with meditation is I get a few eyeballs that sort of roll, meditation. And I get it. Listen, it seems a very heavy word, doesn't it? Meditation, it seems heavy. It seems a heavy word. And there's many ways of meditating, and many of you meditate. You don't even know you meditate. We're going to be talking about brain states in a minute. And alpha to theta are the 2 brain states that are associated with meditation. And anytime you're there, you're in effect meditating. It's just that meditation is really a practice, and sometimes we get into those states just through doing what we do. For some people, that's going for a run. They feel like it calms them, and they're more relaxed. They get ideas. That might be you. So I want to talk about an aspect of meditation, because a lot of meditation is often around breathing and using breathing and breathing techniques and breathe. Now, once again, for those of you that are those kind of A-type personalities, roll the, Colin, breathing, are you kidding me? Is that, you got me on this webinar just to learn about breathing? Yes, and I'll tell you why. These guys, called the Navy SEALs, are trained to breathe. All right, these guys have bombs and bullets coming at them, and they're trained to run towards them, totally against this part of the brain here, right? They're running towards it because they know that the secret to feeling calm, alert, anytime, anywhere is controlling your breathing. And if it's good enough for the Navy SEALs, it's got to be good enough for us. So rather than me talk about it, I'd like to give you an experience of it right now. And this is one of the tools that's in the toolkit. It's a breathing training tool. So rather than me talk about it, we'll get into it. And it's called the 365 breathing zone. Now, the Navy SEALs are taught box breathing. And you can go and find out about that. But fundamentally, where it puts the brain is pretty much the same in terms of the brain states that we get into. It's just a different way of doing it. So I'd like you to experience 6 breaths per minute for 2 minutes, not 5 minutes, just for 2 minutes. But what's been found is that 5 minutes is the absolute sweet spot. If you do this for 5 minutes, it will give you 3 to 4 hours of benefit at the back end. So, do this first thing in the morning, do this in the afternoon. Do this midday, can make a huge difference. And certainly with my clients, the one that I recommend you don't miss is in the afternoon, because stress builds through the day and then you go home and you take home the benefit, which is really good for your family at the end of the day. But, right now we're all at home. Right now we're not really doing that. So, it's not that difficult now just to find some time. But even 1 minute can make a big difference. But we're going to do 2 minutes. So I'm going to take you through it, but I'm going to do this with you as well. It's what I call smell the roses, blow out the candles. So you breathe in through your nose and then you purse and you blow out through your mouth. And you're going to follow this pattern that this sort of training tool is going to take you through. So we'll do it together. I'm not sure if you'll hear the music or not, but it does have something called isochronic tones built into it, which hemisync the brain, put us into a nice blissful state. So you breathe in as the ball moves to the top, and then you breathe, comes down to the bottom, and then you breathe out. All right, so get ready. You're gonna breathe in, breathe in, breathe in, breathe in, breathe in, through your nose, through your nose, through your nose, through your nose. Purse your lips and breathe out, breathe out, breathe out, breathe out, breathe out, breathe out, breathe out. In through your nose, smell those roses, smell those roses, smell those roses, and blow out the candles, blow out the candles, blow out the candles, blow out the candles. Very good. Now just keep this rhythm. Control your breathing for 2 minutes. That's it. Control your breathing right the way out. Breathe in and out. And in and out. And in and out. And in and out. Well done. 2 minutes. Now just notice how you feel right now, because something magical has just happened. You've knocked yourself into the parasympathetic nervous system. It's called the relaxation response. Really good for you, rather than in the sympathetic nervous system. 2 minutes is all that took. And if they train the Navy SEALs to do this, as I say, got to be good for us. Now there's these brainwave states, beta, alpha, theta, and delta. And to keep it simple, there's another brainwave state. We'll just keep it very simple. Back D. And as you can see, alpha is the relaxation. It's visualization, creativity. And theta is meditation, intuition, and memory. So, these are good brain states to be in for us. And just that breathing puts us in that relaxed alertness, that between alpha and beta, which means that we think more clearly, we, act from a more positive state of mind. And just a few minutes of doing that can make a huge difference. And what I love about this is no one needs to know. You can do it anytime. It costs no money, and it has a significant impact on you. And here's the benefits. So Herb Benson, great book, Relaxation Response. These are the benefits of controlled breathing: decreased blood pressure, decreased muscle tension, improved thought processes, improved sleep, restore circulation, strengthen the immune system, and increase overall well-being. Now, if you don't want any one of those, I get it. But if you do, then look, that's how simple it is to achieve. It's a little bit of discipline in order to achieve that. And that's why I think they train the Navy SEALs to use breathing, because they can be in a very high pressure situation. They get control of their breathing. They've got control of their parasympathetic nervous system. They're going to perform at a much, much higher level, talking life and death here. So in the toolkit that I've created, Stay Sane toolkit here, there is the magic of conscious breathing. There's some information, some science behind it in there. There's a technique that I've just shared you. And then there's that tool in there that you can use to train yourself into 6 breaths per minute. Now, look, if you're into yoga and some of that, that was probably too fast for you. You're probably hyperventilated, and that's fine. But that just that comes from a little bit of training. And I'm going for those that maybe haven't done this before. So starting with that is a good place to start. And if you can slow down even more, then even better. Right. Let's talk about control. So what's consuming the highest percentage of your focus right now? Now, focus and attention, huge. Everyone's trying to get our attention. It's the attention economy. Attention makes money. And right now, I think we're in a very dangerous time right now. Why I want to bring this into this webinar and have us think a little bit about this. So if you imagine our minds are a bit like a flashlight. So imagine walking into a dark room and you switch the flashlight on. Now, whatever you illuminate is what you can see. So maybe you illuminate something red. Now, all you can see is red. Or maybe you illuminate something green. All you can see is green. So when we look into reality, often our reality is just based on where are we focusing at this moment in time. There is no reality other than the reality that we give something. So flashlights, think about that. So I have a question for you, right? Where are we pointing our mental flashlight? So first question, I want you to type in the answer to this, please. So get ready, get fingers ready onto chat. Type in the answer to this question as quickly as you can. Some of you will know this because we've worked on this before. So why does the ball fall? Tell me, why does the ball fall? The ball falls because of something called what? Why does it fall? Something called, all right, start typing it in. I've got to figure out how I find out where this.
Everyone's saying gravity.
Everyone's saying gravity, according to Sonny. Thank you, Sonny. Gravity, right. And you're right, okay? There is this thing called gravity. It's why the ball falls. Right, now why else does the ball fall? What's the other reason that the ball falls? Because of what? Quickly type in your answer. Falls because of what? We got any answers, Sonny? Dropped it. Very good. I'm letting go of it, right? So both of those are true. There is something called gravity. That's true. There is something called let go. That is true. Both of those are true, but they're two different places to focus. Is it gravity or is it let go? Now, which one out of gravity and let go are we in control of? Well, obviously that is let go. We're in control of let go. All right. So just to play this out, gravity, let go. So we're in control of let go. We're not in control of gravity. Now, some of you will have seen this before, which are called span of control. I first saw it in Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Fantastic book. And so there's inside of our control and outside of our control. So if you could, in the chat box right now, could you type in what things are outside of our control right now with this coronavirus that's going around the world? What things are outside of our control? Just type in what they are. What would you put? What's outside of our control?
News.
The news, government policy, the environment, Boris Johnson, and what he does.
If other people follow the advice.
Yeah, other people following the advice versus ignoring the advice. The restrictions that are placed on us.
Some put their kids.
My kids, they're out of control. Ah! Yep, right, and so on. Right, now, if we focus there, if we focus on things that we have no control over, where does that put us emotionally? Well, if I focus on the fact that people aren't following what they say, I'm probably going to get angry. I get angry. They're not. They're having a blast doing what I get angry. It's me that experiences anger. Or if I focus on the dangers, then I'm going to be scared. If I focus, so wherever we're putting our focus, there's an emotion that is, connected to it, if you like. And if we put our focus on things we have no control over, things that are happening to us, then we're probably going to feel disempowered. We're probably going to feel all of those negative emotions that are swirling around. Now, what things are we in control of? So type down, if you will, things. What things do we have absolute 100% control of? What things? What would you say?
Our inactions.
Our inactions. Mindset. Exercise. What we do. Keeping safe. Bedtime. You got it. All right. So it comes down to what we do. These are the things that we're in control of. And the moment we put our attention on what we can control, we will feel more empowered, not disempowered, but more empowered. We will feel better about ourselves. So every time we open our mouth, we're at a crossroads. Are we going to be talking and explaining about things we have no control over? Or am I going to control it and focus on things I have control over? See, we live our life inside our language. And you've got to pay attention to your language. We live our life inside our stories. So you've got to pay attention to your stories. Are you constantly talking about things you have no control over? Because if you are going to induce those emotions that won't serve you. Whereas if you focus on things you have control over, you can do, you will. So gravity is about things happening to us. Let go is about things that we can do. And the moment I saw all of that income drop out the diary, I've got to start thinking about what can I do? Okay, what can I begin to do now in order to? And this is part one, is, forget about it. That'll come back. I'm just going to focus on being as supportive as I possibly can to as many people as I possibly can right at this moment in time, because I think that's what's needed. And I will feel empowered as a result of that. And that's really what matters more than anything else. And there's a lot of you doing great work out there right now. So you control the controllables. This is, a sporting phrase, but you take control of the controllables. And I like Henry Link here. We generate fears while we sit, we overcome them by taking action. So getting going, getting moving, getting doing. Focus on what you can do, not what you can't do. Focus on what you have, not what you don't have. Put your focus in places that evoke a powerful emotion in you. Give things meaning that cause you to feel good, not shitty, not bad. Feel good. This is really what mental toughness, this is really what fortitude is all about. It's about framing things in such a way that you see the upside to it, not the downside. So the benefit of let go. So what I want you to do, for those of you that lead, and at home, is have let go or gravity language. Are we focused on gravity, or are we focused on let go? Are we focused on gravity, which we have no control over, or are we focused on let go, which we do have control over? That's really what it comes down to. And when we do, we'll feel more empowered, we'll take positive forward action, and we will influence the future. And that's ultimately got to be our goal. It's about doing something to change the future for good, rather than sulking, sitting there saying it's all doom and gloom, it's all bad. There's too many people doing that right now. Don't need more of that. What we need are what I call the light workers, those that are going to go out there and prove that we can move things forward in a way that is beneficial to ourselves, to our family, to our community, and to those that we serve. So in the toolkit here, there's 2 training, 15 minutes, part 1, part 2, called Empowering Yourself Using Your 4 Core Powers. These core powers are what are core to us. And there's 4 of them that are absolutely core. If we come down to controlling those, we start to get much more control over the things that we can control. So I think you'll enjoy that training in there. Very easy to follow along. I've got sort of a nice graphic in there for you to follow as well. 15-15, but you'll tell me whether it's any good, when you watch it, I guess. Right. So input. Couple more minutes. Input. Where are you drawing positivity and inspiration from? So real quick on this one, Zig Ziglar, the remarkable motivational speaker, and what a great name, passed away a short while ago, but your input determines your outlook determines your output, and your output determines your future. Now look at the start of it. Your input determines your outlook. Input. Now, when we talk about diets, we often think about food. Oh, but what about your mental diet? What are you feeding this right now? Or what are you letting others feed this right now? Because our brain is environmentalized. And unfortunately, we're in an environment right now which is pretty doom and gloom and negative and pessimistic. And I get it. I understand it. All right. but there's a problem with it, that focusing on that doesn't really move things forward in a positive way. So here's what I'm doing, right? Limiting social media in the news. I've deleted all of the apps off, news apps off of my phone. And I am now pulling news and information to me when I want it, rather than having it pushed on me. Because right now, there's an awful lot of shit. And I think we've got to have our BS filters on very, very high alert, because we're so much BS going on. As social beings, we like to share information, and more often than not, it's anecdotal, it's not fact, it's anecdotal, and then we take it as the truth, and then we spread it. And we know that there's a big problem when you go online with fake news and stuff that's made up. Right now, there's some websites that are solely dedicated to busting all of these bloody myths that are out there around coronavirus. That's all they're doing, is proving not true, here's why, not true, here's why. And I think it's better to go to source and get the information that, you know, is much more closer to the truth than this. Newspapers get paid money to get our eyeballs on it, and yeah, that's okay. And sometimes they do an okay job, but more often than not, it's just sensationalism. It's just to get us to pay attention, and of course, then we talk about it. So Mr. Hiles here right now does not have any news hitting me other than when I want to go and get the news. And I'm, you know, very much limiting too. So as I say, we've got to have our bullshit filters really up at the moment, because we're right in amongst it all at this moment in time. And you've got to understand, a lot of what you hear may not be factual. Don't take it as fact. And I know it's very easy to go, yeah, Colin, I think I'm like that, but we quite often get caught up in the thin of things, and as a result, you know, oh, blimey, have you heard? Have you heard? Oh, have you heard? And it's kind of like, well, okay, is that true? Is that true? And I'm not saying you would say that to someone, but in your head, you would say, is that true? Let me go and check that out. Let me make sure that that is true. So as I say, I'm pulling the news to me now. I like, you know, I would say be smart, I'm saying here. You know, we all have a different appetite for this, and we all have a different resilience to this, but follow a few verified news outlets that you trust. You know, for me, I'll go to the BBC. I'm not saying they're perfect, because they're not perfect. They're not perfect, but you know, I'll go to the BBC and I'll just have an idea of what they're saying. But for me, the Centre for Disease Control and World Health Organization, I think the World Health Organization, if you haven't been there, you need to go there. They're doing a fantastic job. They've got, you know, things that are to help us. They've got a sort of fluff busting or myth busting kind of part to it, where they're saying not true, here's why it's not true. So it's fine to unfollow or block sources that cause you anxiety. And what I recommend you do, notice how you feel, get on to the news, and then notice how you feel. Notice what happens. More often than not, you'll be induced with anxiety. You'll be reminded of things you weren't thinking about, and it'll be, oh my God, oh my God. And in my experience, the news will find you. But you know, I would say be smart, okay? And you've got to determine what works for you. I'm telling you what I'm doing here. So I have not seen the news today. Not seen it, not read it, not today, not yet. And so think a little bit about that. And I love the wise words here from Marshall Goldsmith, fantastic coach. If you don't create and control your environment will create and control you. You've got to get control of your environment. You've got to decide what goes in here. This, you know, bread for the head, food for thought. Feed it with good information, inspiring information, information that causes you to feel good. The news doesn't typically do that. So, you know, be careful, be wise, be smart around news. And so in here, what I've got is something called the Alpha Calm Meditation, instant rest, renew, and relax. It's Zen, basically. It's beautiful. This is, you put it on, I guide you through a nice journey. You will feel blissed out. You'll be in that kind of magical, great feeling space and place. It uses isochronic tones, which naturally hemisync your brain just because it's there. You don't even have to worry about it. I'll guarantee that when you take this off, because now you're controlling your environment, you're putting your earphones on and you're controlling your environment for 15 minutes. I think it's 20 minutes, actually. 20 minutes, you're controlling your environment and you will feel good. You might fall asleep, as I don't know if you're on the webinar, Richard found, he put it on when he got onto a tube and found that he'd gone miles away from home because he fell asleep. It will cause you to relax very quickly. It's what I call lazy man's meditation. Put it on and listen, plug and play. All the heavy lifting's done for you. I think you're going to love it. So that's in there. You can either listen to it within the toolkit, or you can download it and then put it on something that you're able to access whenever you want. So that's in there as well. So thank you